Coming up next, we're going where no one has gone before, again, with the next generation.
Hey, comic enthusiasts and pop culture lovers, I'm Ashley.
Sup, nerds? I'm Ryan, and together we are
Couple of Nerds.
Space, the final frontier. Again, we're doing Star Trek. And not just Star Trek, but Star Trek Next Generation.
I think this is definitely one of my favorite Star Trek shows.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. It actually ran from 1987 to 1994. And it's been around like the beginning of from our childhood, since we're both the millennials.
Yeah, it was the reruns of Star Trek Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager were always on the Sci-Fi Channel back in Canada.
Yeah, because again, Ryan's from Canada originally, so
Yes.
so Star Trek is kind of a big part of my family, which is a big thing, and I loved watching Next Gen because that was, again, part of my childhood. And did you know that Star Trek Next Generation was actually the last Star Trek show that Gene Roddenberry actually had a hand in?
Really?
Yeah, because he sadly passed away in 1991.
He definitely left behind a great legacy.
He did.
And I know that wasn't his wife also part of it?
Yes, she's actually been part of the Star Trek series in general since the very beginning. She was actually one of the nurses in the original series, and she was both the voice of the computer for the ships, and she was also the mother of one of the characters in Next Gen. She was the mother of Deanna Troi, named Loxana Troi, and so she was in it forever until she also passed away, but she was always part of it, which is really cool.
So why is it called Star Trek The Next Generation?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Well, Gene Roddenberry was actually approached by Paramount, and so they approached him and asked if he could do another series based off of Star Trek. And he's like, oh, okay, so I'll do that, yeah. So he came up with the Next Generation of Star Trek, where that would be including the United Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
And it's set, I think, about 10 years. Originally, it was going to be like 10 years from the original series, like 10 years forward.
Okay.
I think it ended up being a bit further, but it was the Next Generation because it's a whole new cast. And there's a character who was played by Michael Dorn, and he was one of my favorite characters, and that would be Worf.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
And he's one of the first Klingons to actually be part of the Federation, actually working for the Federation in general.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Klingons were the bad guys for most of the first series.
Yeah, for the original series, they were the bad guys, and now they're not. Worf's character is a Klingon. He's a full Klingon, but he was orphaned.
Yeah.
And a family from Earth adopted him. And he's such a cool character, has so much depth to him, and all the characters have a lot of depth to them too.
Yeah.
I know some people think that Picard is more like a politician, or someone who's just doing a lot of talking and stuff like that, and he's not an action captain. If they think that he's just not an action captain, they have not been watching the show the correct way.
Yeah, but I think the reason Picard is my favorite captain is because there are situations where he could blow his enemy away. Because his enemy has a gun to him and he's got a gun to his enemy, basically. And he chooses not to. He chooses to talk.
He chooses reason over violence.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. That's what Star Trek stands for.
Exactly.
Is trying to approach the situation with reason instead of violence. Because we're trying to evolve past what we used to be. But that's why I love Star Trek so much.
Tune in every Friday for more nerdy stuff and trivia from us, your couple of nerds, only on Halloween C.